Yep, that's me. And in this video, I was hunted for 100 days in hardcore Minecraft. And I'll tell you now, it gets spicy. So, Minecraft Hardcore Hunted. This is something I never thought I would do, but when Complex MC approached me and Guilty and told us they had a survival server where we could do whatever we wanted, we swooped on the offer and came online to record this. The rules were simple: if you die to the other player, you lose, whether that's on day 1 or day 100. But quickly before we get into the video, we officially hit 100,000 subscribers before the end of March. And if that's possible, anything is. So if you could do me a huge favor and just scroll down below and check that you are subscribed. I am now pushing to try and hit 250,000 subscribers by my birthday. This is going to be a hard push, but 90% of you guys that watch these videos aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you do subscribe, it is very possible. And finally, if you want to hop on Complex MC and try this with your friends, or just play some multiplayer survival Minecraft, all of the information for that will be in the description down below. But now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So, day 1. This was where the adventure began. I had 30 seconds to escape, and after that, it was game on. I ran for a minute and then grabbed some wood. I couldn't spend time stood still, I had to stay on the move. He saw which way I ran, and I did not want to risk dying on day 1. As quickly as I could, I made myself some better tools. If he was coming for me already, I wanted to make sure that I had the upper hand at the start. So quickly after upgrading, I found a dark oak forest. I thought this would be perfect to dive in. It's dense, if he could see me, I will lose him in here quickly. I found a great cave which I was able to grab myself a load of iron from. As far as I knew, I was still being chased, so I had to keep moving. This iron would have to wait until it was melted. But on day 2, I was able to find myself some sheep, which was great since food and a bed on here are going to be a big necessity. And then I stumbled across another cave in the desert. This wasn't anything great, unfortunately, so I continued my run. I quickly found a huge ravine, so headed down to grab some extra resources. As I was grabbing some extra iron, I had my first close call of this challenge. Oh my god, what the hell? Yep, these slimes do a lot of damage. But after escaping, which seemed to be my second hunter, I continued to grab some iron and even spent the night down here. On day 3, I resurfaced and found myself a desert temple. This was going to be super helpful, especially if I could get some golden apples. So I approached it with caution to avoid any traps, because clearly this thing was custom. But it had been looted. Guilty must have already been here, which means he is most likely very close to me and has some of the good stuff from this place. I couldn't wait around, I had to run. So that's exactly what I did, all the way to day 4. That was when I stumbled across this super cool biome. The mossy cobble ruins seemed like a confusing and compact place, so I decided I was going to create my temporary base here for now. This will give me a place where I can cook my food and iron and not have to worry about being spotted so easily. So that's exactly what I did for the rest of day 4. So on the next day, with my fresh iron armor, I set off on a mission. I wanted to try and find some more structures in the wild, and maybe a village or two to grab myself some possible loot. Whatever was in that temple was probably super helpful, and I am now at a disadvantage. I very quickly found myself chopping down some trees, and since in the future I want to make a super nice spruce house, this would be helpful. But I was adventuring well into the night of day 5 and I didn't find any villagers, so on day 6 I headed home. It took me a long time to relocate my house, which is actually a good thing since it's supposed to be hidden. But once I found it, I started right away on a mine. After doing this for a little bit, I decided I wanted to change my plan. If I was trying to avoid being hunted, I needed to make sure that I was leaving no trace of myself anywhere. Which prompted me to create a tree farm underground, so that if I needed wood, there would be no floating leaves or saplings on the floor allowing Guilty to track me down. And yes, it was only day 7 and my finger was already hurting from sneaking for all this time. This was gonna be a long and painful 100 days. On day 9, I wanted to try again on the search for a village, so I set off, but I was quickly distracted by a cow near my door. There was only one, but if I was able to trap a few of these cows, I'd be able to have a pretty consistent food source in my house. So I quickly made a farm so that I could get some wheat, and then set off on my mission again to locate a village. The sun had set and I didn't have a bed, but I did come across my first village. However, this was not an ordinary village. This was another YouTuber's village, but it was clearly abandoned. So I looked around to see if I was able to locate anything good. But unfortunately, the best thing I could find was bamboo. Luckily, there was actually an automatic bamboo farm that had clearly been working the whole time, so I allowed myself to grab some of that. All of this bamboo I would be able to sell at spawn for money, which I could then spend on cool things. And that is exactly where I ended up on day 10. I wasn't sure if Guilty was around, so I approached this place with heavy caution. I was constantly checking my back. I was able to quickly locate the quest giver. This guy lets me pick a task and gives me money for it if I complete it. So I picked the cow slayer. It seemed like the easiest one. I receive a reward for killing 250 cows. And then after that, I headed straight over to the marketplace to head to the salesman. I wanted to sell all this bamboo that I had stolen and see if I could buy anything with the money I had. It took me a while to figure out how to sell this stuff, but I was able to sell the bamboo. Unfortunately though, I didn't really get much money, so I wasn't able to buy anything. The next stop was a villager pet. This guy doesn't really have a purpose, but he kinda just wants to follow me around on this journey. I'll take it, it gives me some company along the way. He then joined me on my adventure into the resource cave. This was where I was able to finally find my first diamonds. Well, diamond. But sadly, I couldn't find any more, and as usual, I didn't have the time to spend standing around in the same location. So I moved on over towards the farm and did some farming. And then it happened. The moment I had been dreading the most. Guilty showed up. And he was fully geared. I was not at all ready for a battle, so I took off. Luckily, the render distance on here isn't too far, so I wanted to just try and get out of his view and then try to escape. After a pretty long chase and luckily weaving between many spruce trees, I was able to get away. Since I was running in F5 for a long time, I almost ended up falling down a ravine. That would have been really bad, escaping death by dying. But I ran for a few more minutes and quickly realized that he had most likely stopped following me, so I decided to actually loop back around to spawn. There was no way he knew that I was at spawn, so he must have been there for something. And I wanted to see what he was actually there for. I did not have enough time during that chase to actually see his armor and tools, so I had no idea what I was up against. So I quietly snuck back into spawn and checked him out. Wait, are they enchanted boots? Yep, he has enchanted armor and I do not. He seemed to be pretty stacked, so before I stuck my nose in too far and ended up in a fight, I decided it was time to head home. On day 13, I decided it was time to move out of the old mossy cobblestone hole. This was only supposed to be temporary whilst I was able to craft some armor and protection. So I set off to locate my new house location. I very quickly found this amazing looking ice lake, so I decided this is where my new place was going to be. I wanted to build some sort of spruce cabin, nothing crazy, but just something that looks good in this biome and is big enough for what I need. But after building for a very long time, all the way to day 16, I had an unexpected visitor. He had found my house already after not even 4 days. And I ran quite far out, so this was a huge shock. But I attempted to defend myself as best as possible. But when I realized he had a diamond axe, I had to leave. As I ran, he ran as well, which makes me think he was low on health, so I probably should have continued to hit him, but it's fine, my chance will come again. I quickly realized after he had gone that he came from the west and left in the west, which gives me a good idea of where to search when I'm looking for his base. But I am not at all ready for a revenge attack yet. So I continued to build, but this time with caution of my surroundings. And by day 19, the house was pretty much done. And I actually really like how it turned out. And now that the house was done, I spent the rest of today and the next few days mining. If I'm being hunted, iron armor is not going to cut it anymore. I need diamonds for diamond armor, so that's exactly what I set off to do. And this took me a long time. I went through so many pickaxes before I even found my first set. But eventually I did locate some, and thanks to my MCMMO mining levels being already upgraded quite a lot from my previous mining trips, even without fortune, I was able to get 2 diamonds sometimes from each ore. So after finding a few veins, I finally had enough diamonds for what I needed. So I crafted myself a diamond pickaxe to grab some obsidian for a nether portal. Then when I had all the obsidian I needed, I headed up, crafted some diamond armor, and then made my nether portal. The nether is never a safe place to go in hardcore, so as usual I was scared, but I went in anyway. Whilst I was actually crafting my diamond armor, I saw that Guilty had once again gained the Bastion achievement, which meant that there was a very high chance that he was still in the nether. So I just had to make sure I could avoid him. I spent some time grabbing XP and was able to locate myself a nether fortress, which was nice. But it wasn't too nice because it did bait me out for being in the nether. Since everybody in the chat can see my achievements, he probably knew I was here now. But that didn't stop me, and I was able to find myself a ruined portal, which was nice, I guess. I didn't get anything great from the chests, though, unfortunately. Oh, and these 2 striders were just staring at each other, and then they started staring at me. I don't know what they were doing. But then after I had moved on from these 2 strange-looking creatures, I stumbled across another nether portal. Our first sign of other human life in here. And then I quickly found out that this portal was pretty much connected to a bastion. And it wasn't too long ago that he had his achievement in there. So I made my way over to see if there was anything left over inside. I know for a fact that Guilty is not good when it comes to piglins, so he may have left some stuff behind. It was unlikely, but I wanted to check anyway. There was a magma cube in here that really scared me because it had a name tag. But to my surprise, there was gold in here. Even though it had clearly been explored already, there was gold left over, so Guilty probably had a close call and had to leave. So the gold was mine. Oh, and this brute was an easy kill. So then my search continued, but I quickly realized I was not alone. He was here. He must have seen my achievement in the chat and thought he could capitalize on me being in the Bastion. But he had no idea I was watching him, so I had the upper hand. When I saw him enter the Bastion, I decided that the timing was perfect to make a run for the portal. If he saw me go through, I had a good chance of getting away on the other side. But I quickly realized that my whole plan was rumbled. He knew that I saw him there and knew that I was going to make a run for the portal. So I had nowhere to run apart from the Bastion. I tried to confuse him with block placements and just to get lost in the Bastion, and thankfully it seemed to work. I could mine out of the side and make a bolt for the portal. I couldn't see him this time, so I think the coast was clear. And with nobody in sight, I was out. Straight away, I trapped the portal and headed straight into the jungle. It's dense in here. He won't find me. But I could see his house in the distance, so I knew what I had to do. He clearly had an enchantment table, so I wanted to get in there and use it whilst he was still in the nether searching for me. And as I walked in, I had the biggest surprise of my life. He was here. He must have luckily came through the portal that was right next to his house and caught up. And with him being fully enchanted, I could not afford to take him on yet. He seems to constantly have the upper hand, so I definitely need to upgrade my armor. And as I ran into the darkness of day 27, I was able to slip away. He outplayed me there, and I was very lucky to get away alive. On my return back to my house, I found 2 very cute pigs, so I lured them home with some carrots and trapped them in. So I spent the rest of today making a more dedicated pig farm. This was so that I could breed them and they weren't just in the middle of my ice lake. And after making the pig one, I saw a lone cow near my house, so I made another one right next to it so that I could start to breed cows as well. I still had that quest that needed completing. I really liked the wooden look that I had going on around here, so I made myself a cool walkway over the ice. And after that, I grabbed the lone cow from the snow and put him in the pen. Since there was only one cow, I had to spend the rest of day 30 hunting down another one in the wild, but eventually I found a few and was able to bring one of them home. On day 31, I entered the Nether to find myself a bastion, and I stumbled back across the one that I was in previously. But with the removal of the threat of a hunter, it felt alright to enter. However, Guilty was quickly replaced by a brute that was out to kill me instead. And this guy got very close to doing it. But after I had healed up, I was able to take these guys down and then continue my exploration. The loot really wasn't great, however, there was a lot of brutes, so I was getting a little bit of XP from them. And after checking out the other side, the chests weren't great either. And after I had cleared the bastion, I decided it was time to see what I was really up against. So, I snuck through Guilty's portal and headed into the jungle. This was a risky plan, since I didn't know if he was home, but I didn't let that stop me. I approached it very cautiously and made sure the whole coast was clear. Luckily, he wasn't in here waiting for me this time. But there was a parrot that I tried to pet, but it didn't let me. However, I was able to find some lapis and enchant my armor. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have taken all of my armor off at the same time in his house, but I was untouched, so that was fine. But this got me thinking, if he wasn't here, where was he? I thought it was probably a smart idea to start heading back towards my base because he could have been mining, he could have been farming at spawn, but I don't know where he was and I didn't want to take any risks, so I went home to double check. And upon return back home, it looked pretty calm and peaceful around here. Until I saw him. He was in my house. And yep, he decided to drop some TNT in here. It looked like he wanted a fight and I did not have a shield, so I was not prepared for a battle. But all of a sudden then, it seemed like he wasn't either, because he quickly took off into the forest again. So after trying to chase him down for a little bit, I retreated to make sure all of my stuff wasn't gone, and started to fix my house up a little bit. On day 34, I set off on a mission towards spawn. I wanted to buy some apples for golden apples, and I heard that you could buy a totem of undying from this place, so I wanted to go and see how much that was. I sold some of my stuff, and thankfully I was able to buy some apples, but a totem of undying was well out of my price range. So I headed back to the village that I found earlier that belonged to Skies, to see if I could get some bamboo and some other stuff to sell to try and get the money for a totem. But unfortunately, as expected, this was not enough still. So after sleeping at spawn in a bed, I spent the whole of day 36 heading home, trying to find a new village. But that was unsuccessful, so when I got home, I made the apples that I had bought into golden apples and then started on a sugarcane farm. The sugarcane farm was nothing crazy, but this may make me a little bit of cash that I can use to buy a totem at some point. Oh, and on day 37, I really liked how this whole area looked, so I just admired that for a bit. The next 3 days were spent underground. I needed some diamonds for an enchantment table so that I could enchant my armor and start actually competing against him. And finally, on day 40, I was able to run into some. I went through so many pickaxes and I was so relieved when I finally found some. So I went straight back up as soon as I had them, made the enchantment table and placed it in my attic. On day 41, I saw Guilty had the Bastion achievement again, and if he was in the Bastion near his portal, this was the perfect time for me to strike back and try to kill him. So I rushed over towards his area and checked it out. At first it seemed very quiet, but once I went out again, he was there. I was able to get the first hit with the bow, and also the second, but after a few minutes of hurtling arrows at each other, I made a push for him. Somehow he was able to get an incredible bow shot off that sent me into the lava. I had golden apples, but I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. And I also wasn't sure if he was going to make a push for me, so I just tried to escape and made my way back up. I quickly realised that his punch bow was too much on these walkways. I needed to block them with my shield and take this into hand-to-hand combat. But, to my surprise, he had knockback. Of course he did. I was in the lava again. I made my way back up and tried to get through the portal. But I couldn't, because whilst you're in combat you can't go through. So I had to try and hide from him whilst the combat countdown went down. At the last minute he saw me, but thankfully I was able to just get through. Yep, again I had been thrown another curveball. The portal took me to some random cave, so I had to act quickly and try to make a trap in the portal so that I could kill him if he came through. And he fell right into the trap. But it didn't work. Of course it didn't. So now it was back to hand-to-hand fights. In a cave, last man standing. His sword wasn't actually doing that much damage, but the knockback was super irritating, so I just decided it was time to try and get out. As I mined away, he continued to chase. And he even used TNT at one point. But as he lost me in the stone, I made a run for the portal. I was out. That is a situation that I never want to be in again. And I decided after all of that, instead of leaving the Nether, I wanted to stay. I wanted to try and find some fresh bastions in here so that I could try and get some good items to assist my defense in the future. And it took a while, but finally I was able to locate one. As usual, the brutes were annoying, but I was able to kill them off and grab the loot. Then I had to kill a bunch more brutes that were on the other side of a wall. But unfortunately, again, the loot wasn't amazing. After moving through this place, I had another close call. But thankfully, I was able to escape and continue moving through. I made my way to the bottom and I got an enchanted golden apple. This is huge, this is perfect for me. I can easily kill Guilty with this. But quickly after getting it, I had a slight incident. The magma cube smacked me into the lava and caused my closest situation with death yet. And as much as it pains me to say, I had to eat the enchanted golden apple to stay alive. All of the excitement from me having this golden apple had all gone, and it was all because of a magma cube. I was so angry, I just wanted to get out of this place straight away. And there turned out to be another bastion right next door to this place, so I bridged over to check it out. I had to deal with a few piglins, but unfortunately this thing offered me nothing but some gold. So with what I had, I started heading back home. It took me a while to locate these bastions, so I had quite the journey ahead of me. But thankfully on day 48 I was able to return home. Straight away I turned all of the gold that I had gathered from my nether trip into golden apples, and then spent a while enchanting books to get sharpness on my axe. I went through so many books and I very quickly ran out of XP, so on day 49 I had to re-enter the nether to get some more. This allowed me to upgrade my axe to sharpness 3 when I returned. But I was not finished there. When exploring the bastions, I was able to locate 3 ancient debris, so I set off into the nether to do some bed bombing. I wanted to upgrade my axe to netherite. Even though it only does 1 extra damage, that could be the difference between death and victory, so I needed to do it. And after doing a few beds, I quickly realized that my armor was absolutely destroyed, so I will need to fix that. But then I stumbled across some ancient debris. I only needed 1, so this was perfect. I headed straight back home, made the ingot, and then upgraded my axe. It was time to strike. So on day 50, I started my march towards his base. I was fully ready for the fight to the death. As I showed up to the portals, he actually came through. I was super lucky not to be seen here. And whilst I knew he was occupied in the nether, I thought this was the perfect time to sneak into his house. I wanted to set a trap for when he returned home to weaken him up before I pounced on him. So I placed some TNT under a pressure plate at his door. And then after I did that, I scaled his tree house and watched the trap come to life. It took a long time for him to return, but the time had finally come. As he ran in, I waited for the explosion, but nothing happened. I was so confused as to what was going on, so I just started attacking him. I fell down, but thankfully my fall was cushioned. He had potions. I wasn't sure which ones he drank, but it seemed that he was prepared for a fight. So that's exactly what I gave him. I had him weak at one point and he was running, but unfortunately he was able to get off the golden apple to save him. We kept fighting late into the night of day 50 and went deep into the jungle. Unfortunately, he was able to knock me down a ravine. This was when I thought it was all over. He pounced on me and started attacking again. And to add insult to injury, my helmet broke. But completely unexpectedly, I got 2 crit hits in a row and killed him. 51 days in and I had made it. I had finally killed my hunter. And that was it. I had won. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to go down below and smash that like button. If this video does well, we will do another version of this. However, the roles will then be reversed, so I will be hunting Guilty. So if that is something you want to see, show some love down below, and also come and hop on Complex MC if you guys want to play on the same world that we played in here, and do this with your friends. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one, hopefully. Peace.